stop worrying about the things that are out of your control. I would kick myself every single day because I wish that there was something different I could do. I felt like you are a failure. You're not doing this right just because you weren't there at this time. And to this day, I feel like I have to be in control of everything.
Welcome to the place where we hear empowering stories of transformation and then we turn that into art that reminds us to be great. I am your host and artist, Jessica James, and this is the I Empower podcast. Aly, thank you so much for being on with me today. I'm so excited to get to talk to you.
I'm so excited to be here.
Yay! I always like to tell my audience where I find my guest. And for you, it's a little bit of a different experience. I've actually had the opportunity to watch you grow up on Facebook. I'm friends with your grandmother and your aunts. And I was in the beauty pageant world with my daughter for a while. And so I got to see you from a very young age grow into the amazing woman that you are today. And so, yeah, you have a very important story that I think people need to hear, and it's very unique, and I want to jump into that here in a minute, but I'm going to have you just introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, well, as she said, my name is Aly. I'm 18 years old, and I'm originally from like 20 minutes outside of downtown Charlotte, North Carolina, but I'm currently in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I'm a freshman here at the University of Alabama, currently studying news media with sports media concentration, but in other words, I'm pretty much just a sports journalism major. And I've been involved in pageantry pretty much the entirety of my life. When I tell you my entire life, like since I was 6 months old, and I'm 18, I still do it. But yeah, it's just like a little bit about me, a little bit of my highlights and all, but we can kind of get into the way that pageants tie into everything here in a minute. But yeah.
Yeah, thank you. It's so awesome. Like I said, getting to see you blossom into the woman that you are today. And then, I always joke about like how Facebook can connect people in different ways, and like that, like I feel like I know you, but I don't really know you, but like having that experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel
the same with so many people. I'm like, I feel like I've seen you before, but I don't know you. And it probably makes me sound like a creep, but I know you.
No, hey. Yeah, it's so nice because like I feel like I've gotten the opportunity to like celebrate, privately in a lot of your accomplishments. Like you said, you did beauty pageants and then you ventured into, I hope I'm saying this right, like scholarship style beauty pageants, which is like Miss America circuit type pageantry. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so when you ventured into that style, that requires you to have a platform, almost like service type thing. So explain to me your platform and what has inspired you to pursue this.
Absolutely. So I started off in glitz pageants, which is like down to a T, the toddlers and tiaras that you see on TV. Yeah. And then when I was around 8 or 9, I started transitioning into more state level, national level, and like you said, scholarship pageants. And that really changed my life. I was exposed to a lot of different opportunities in terms of being able to reach out to other people. So I really started getting fully enticed in giving back to others when I was around 12. And I first started thinking about what I want a personal platform. Some different pageants require you to raise money for a certain platform, but it's also highly encouraged that you have your own. And I kind of wanted to branch out and just do something that means a lot to me. I always feel more encouraged to want to do more if I have such a personal connection to it. And that's kind of how this came about. So back in September or late August of 2019, I started my own organization called the Glipstick Project, which once I kind of break down my story, I'll explain it to you. But that kind of rooted from some trauma tragedy that I had experienced a little bit earlier in my life. So when I was 3, I unfortunately lost my mom to suicide. And of course, being young back then, I didn't necessarily know what that meant. Even when I kind of figured out the whole story when I was around 15, I still didn't really know what it meant. It took me a long time to kind of cope with it and understand, like, there's nothing you can do. But I started growing older and learning more things and taking every opportunity I can to learn more about mental health and suicide prevention and awareness, and decided I may not be able to do anything about her not being here anymore, but I am able to do something to help save other people. And so, alas, the glow stick project started. And the premise of it comes from I wanted to find an object or an idea of something that needs to break to be a more beautiful version of itself afterwards. And a glow stick is like a perfect idea of that. So
Yeah.
I kind of hit the ground running end of August 2019 and just started making small little movements. I started making little small yellow ribbons, pass them out to my friends and my teachers, have them put them on their book bags in their classrooms, just to kind of get a little bit of awareness, and wrote out a little thing just so people kind of became a little bit of aware as to what it was. And I wasn't necessarily sure of like what the identity of this organization wanted it to be in the moment, but I have been able to kind of grow and learn a little bit more over the past couple of years, and COVID threw a wrench in some of our plans, of course.
Yeah.
But I've had a really amazing opportunity to do a lot with that. So that's kind of my story, and that's my inspiration. And I just plan on carrying it further with me in my collegiate career and then in my professional career. I just feel like it's such an extremely important topic that we need to talk about, and we need more people to have those hard conversations.
Most definitely. I think what you're doing is beautiful. And when I had the opportunity to hear your story during a speaking engagement that we both were a part of, I didn't know. I told you this during our time together there, that I knew that your mother was not with us anymore, but I did not know the reason why. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that and your experience, because until I started this project, suicide was not something that a lot of people talked about. There wasn't a lot of, air quotes, awareness about it. But the more opportunity I have to talk to people that are just like us, everyday people, there are so many people who have been touched by suicide, whether it's suicidal ideation, attempted suicide. They've had family members that have died by suicide, and then just the whole being in that and experiencing that made me realize that this affects so many people, whether indirectly, directly. So when you found out, so I know, again, when we think back at such a young age, we don't have a lot of memory of things, just the way that the mind works.
Mm-hmm.
But you experienced your mother not being with you anymore, and then you said at the age of 15 was when you learned this story. Was this something because you were interested? How did your family kind of protect you from this information until they felt like you were old enough to understand and handle it?
I feel like I was always extremely interested, but I am not the type of person to just ask. Of course,
Yeah.
in my future, I wanted to know exactly what had happened, but at the time, I thought I knew everything, and understandably so. My family, I guess, wanted to protect me from, the brutal truths of life,
Yeah.
and as tragic as it was, I do feel like they handled it in an extremely well way. Of course, the circumstances weren't necessarily ideal, but I don't think there is a necessarily ideal situation to be told something like that. But,
Yeah.
my family, they've always been extremely supportive of me. They love me so, so, so much. And, growing up without a mother was really all that I ever really knew, because at the age of 3, of course, I don't remember a
Yeah.
whole lot, because I just
No.
remember it always being me, my dad, and my brother. And then I became extremely close with my aunt, and I ended up moving in with her and have this really good relationship. And I never really asked the questions. I just said okay,
Yeah.
and I took my time. I did what I needed to do for myself, and stayed in touch with my brother. Made sure that this doesn't change anything, and again, took my time and then turned it around and wanted to turn that pain into strength and help people and have them not kind of feel the isolation that I felt for a little while. So that's mainly the goal of not just this project, but also just of my life. I want to, be that basis of support and communication for people who may be in a similar situation or a completely different situation.
Yeah, most definitely. And so one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on was so much because you're actually the youngest person that I've had the opportunity to talk to. And when I started this project, we think of our healing journeys and the traumas that we go through at a young age. We always think that, and me ignorantly thinking that somebody that is younger is still like, you think that there has to be this many years attached to healing in order to be at a place where you feel like you can talk about it and educate and help others. But in the reality is that healing happens every day. We talk about that a lot on the show and how it looks different for everyone. And so for you being 18, you experienced your trauma at a young age, and then, almost kind of like reintroducing that story to you at an older age and having to process that. And the importance at where I'm getting at with this is because from my research, suicide was the second leading cause of death among people 10 to 24 years old in 2018. And when I read that, it was very like, oh my gosh. And so this is why I feel like speaking to somebody that is in your demographic of age, so that there is awareness for the younger, for every generation, but particularly with this show and this episode for the younger generation, the importance for that. So do you feel like this plays a part in your project, in your mission, in your platform, because of your age, that there needs to be more talk about it in your demographic?
Absolutely. I think that grief and the process of grieving is such a non-uniform thing. And I don't think that people realize that it can happen at any age. It can happen at any time. There's no set rule book as to how people need to cope, how they should cope. And I do think that it is extremely important for people in my demographic to reach out a little bit more. It's, of course, I've had my own struggles, but my reason and story behind this is not necessarily my personal issues with this, but there's far too many cases, and it happens far too often for people not to talk about it. I am not saying that everybody needs to, run out and create an initiative. That's not at all the case, but I just wish people would just talk more. I think the importance of conversation and the importance of connection is something that's not necessarily seen necessarily in my demographic. I go to a really large university with, 40, 50,000 students, and I just think of how so many cases could be different if we were just to talk. And, with my project, I don't want to have a set demographic that I'm reaching out to. Of course, we could build a stronger connection with people in the 18 to 24 age range, because of course that's me and my story and my connection. But that doesn't mean that I don't want to connect with adults or parents or children who are younger than me. There's no set path as to who and like what I'm trying to accomplish with that. This is for everyone. This is it's just a big group of people who I just want to give a big old hug to. And I think that's also something that needs to be talked about a little bit more, because while it's great that there are some initiatives that are targeted for certain demographics, certain type of people in certain different situations, grief is universal, and so are people. So we just kind of need to maybe reach out a little bit more, make it more open for everyone, and have a safe space open for people who are 8, 12, 18, 87. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
I love that. Again, with this project and having the opportunity to speak with such a variety of amazing women, a lot of them talk about what you're saying, the importance of talk and finding that safe space to communicate with people who may be experiencing similar things or have been through similar situations. Because me going through the healing process of my own trauma is, we feel that shame. We feel like no one's going to understand what we're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And when I decided to talk about it and start this project and connect with people who have experienced a variety of things, it has made it easier for me to talk about the things that I've gone through. And so I love that you're saying that, creating a community of people who can safely talk about the things that are bothering them. So with that being said, are you an advocate for, I know that you're an advocate for mental health, but what kind of resources would you recommend for somebody that is like, I have been feeling very overwhelmed, I'm having these intrusive thoughts. I feel like because of my age, I may not be taken as seriously if we're talking about, the youth, your generation. I know that there's a lot of struggles that go on with that. So what would be your advice to somebody that may feel like they need some help?
That's such a good question, and one that comes up so much in the conversation of mental health, because I'll admit, like, I've been there. I've been in a place where I'm scared to even talk to my best friends because, what if I continue to invalidate myself and think that my feelings aren't valid or I'm not allowed to feel this way? But that's simply just not the case. Going back to it, I really do not think people understand why I emphasize on communication so much, because building a connection with one person face to face or over the phone, like that can truly change someone's life. You don't have to
Yeah.
say all of the right things. You don't have to be knowledgeable in statistics of mental health. You don't need to be completely knowledgeable of the signs of what to look out for, but having that person can truly save someone's life. And
Yeah.
it's extremely important to me, and I have seen it change people's lives. But also, one thing that I do believe needs to be talked about more is self accountability. Holding yourself accountable in times where you feel like maybe I shouldn't be alone right now. Maybe I really do need to go talk to someone. That someone doesn't have to be your parent. It doesn't have to be your professor. It doesn't have to be your best friend. Shoot, it could be a stranger for all I know.
Yeah.
But there are so many great resources, such as like the hotline and things like that, that you could easily just find a resource. But you have to be someone who is willing to be aware and understand your actions and understand, I'm just feeling off today. I need to do something about it. Along with having those people that can recognize when you may need help, it's also understanding when you need to recognize when you need that help as well.
I love that advice. That is actually something that my therapist told me last week. We talked about intrusive thoughts and the importance of being self-aware of your feelings, giving yourself permission to feel those feelings, but also realizing if you're having thoughts or feelings that are are not making you feel okay, then, being self-aware enough to say, this is not okay. I need to speak with somebody. And like you said, there are a lot of resources. I know sometimes, and I'm not trying to speak for everybody, but I'll speak generally in my case. When I have these crazy, thoughts, because I've dealt with suicidal ideation before. And so you feel like that sense of shame comes over you a little bit, and or you don't want to burden somebody that you love. I don't want them to worry about me. I know what this kind of information can bring to that person. And so, like you said, having those, there's so many hotlines, there's so many free resources for people. If you just want to talk to somebody that, you don't know, like sometimes it's easier to talk to somebody that you don't know to give that information to, and they are there to help. So I love that advice. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about, in recent, I say history, but in recent news, we lost someone in the pageant community that literally, like, I'm going to get emotional talking about it. It shook me to my core. It really did. I'm talking about Chesley Christ, who died by suicide a few months back. She was such a light in that community and just an all-around person. I looked up to her, and my heart was just shattered when that happened. So my question to you was, how, with your experience, with your history with suicide, how did that make you feel, being in the pageant, you're heavy in the pageant community. So how did that make you feel?
I just remember, as crazy as it sounds, I was waking up from a nap, and one of my good friends who is also in the pageant community, she had called me and said, "Did you see what just happened?" I said, I sorry, like, I've been out of the loop all day. And I
Yeah.
went and started reading, and I just remember sitting in my room by myself, and I felt physically sick. Um, I have come to know Chesley from afar. I competed in Miss North Carolina Teen USA for multiple years. I was lucky enough to be there when she won Miss North Carolina USA. And, you know, I knew her. I saw her and knew she's going to be a freaking rock star. And she went up
Yeah.
there, won Miss USA, and just became such a role model, not just for, you know, girls everywhere, but especially being from Charlotte. That was crazy. So, you know, her being in the spotlight as she was, I really idolized her. I may not have known her on a personal level, but I idolized her. And I just remember for 2 to 3 days after, I could not stop thinking. My mind was racing, and I kind of fell into that weird pit of, dang, what if somebody would have said something? What could I have done? What could
Right.
a small town girl who lives in the middle of nowhere, Alabama, what could I have done to change this? And I had to, of course, refall into the process of realizing like there was nothing that I possibly could have done in that exact moment. But like you said, I mean, I think saying the phrase "it shook me to my core" does not do it justice,
Yeah.
because it's a perfect example. And I remember saying this to a lot of my friends. She was a perfect example of, you can look like you have everything, but that doesn't mean
Yeah.
anything. And she was so extremely important. And just, I remember pretty much growing up, coming into myself of where I am now, watching her and idolizing her. I thought, "Oh, she's perfect. She's got it all. She's amazing." And all of those things were true. But just because it looks like she has everything doesn't mean that she's completely satisfied inside. And I think that's a lesson that not only the pageant community can learn from, but everyone. And really take that into consideration, and, you know, just take care of yourselves. I mean, it's still to this day, I mean, like, I have chills going up my arms. Like, it makes me sick. But,
Yeah.
you know, there's just a number of things that we always think about. What can I do different? And we've just got to realize that in this moment right now, there was nothing that we could do to bring her back. So it's
Right.
insane. It shook me to the core,
Yeah, I
honestly.
know. Like, I just remember opening up my Facebook app and somebody shared an article and that they identified the jumper's body was and I hate how cold sometimes those news articles can, come across, because it dehumanizes people sometimes, but they were like, "Say it isn't so." And so I'm like, "What?" And like I click on it and I'm reading it and I'm like, this is not real. This is not real. I spent the whole entire, and I just kept refreshing, Facebook, trying to see where someone was saying that this was not a real article. And then you go and you're like searching for the actual information yourself. And I just remember the feeling that I had that day of, this cannot be real. This is not real. Like, even saying it now doesn't even make me feel like it's real. But like you said, it's so important that we realize that mental health doesn't have a face. Mental illness does not have a face. People that are struggling internally doesn't have a face. And a lot of the posts that I've seen, she had everything. She was going, she was doing all these amazing things and won all these awards. And then I had the opportunity to see a few things. I think it was on Twitter, where people were quoting some of the articles that she had been interviewed in. I think Allure magazine was one of them. And some of the things that she was saying in that article, I was like, oh my gosh, here's a red flag. Like, not red flag, but like, she's telling us that she's struggling and nobody sees it. And so in that moment, I felt helpless anyways, but I even felt more helpless. And how often we miss those signs. And then unfortunately, when these things happen, we feel blame ourselves, and we start to think back, oh, what if I would have done this, or what if I would have done that? But it just really highlights the importance of being self-aware, but also being aware of those people that are around you, and realizing that the signs of someone struggling. I know it's so easy for us to get in our daily lives and worry about the things that we have going on, that we miss those things. But a lot of times in my own, I'm speaking for myself, but also speaking for some of the guests that I've had the opportunity to talk to about this subject, they just don't want to, you don't want to say anything. We don't want to be a burden to that person, but at the same time, like, it's so important that we talk about our feelings, and also that we are aware of those that we love. We can pay attention to the things that maybe they're not verbally saying, but their body language is saying.
Exactly.
Hello, beautiful. I just wanted to pop in here really quick and remind you that if you love what you're hearing and you want to hear more of it, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss next week's episode of I Am Power. And if you're feeling extra generous and you would like to give us a review, we would greatly appreciate it. Those help bump us in the algorithm so that more people are able to find these empowering stories to help them. Also, don't forget to check out the art that goes along with today's episode. You can do so at iampower.club or on Instagram at IamPowerClub. And if you personally feel connected to the story and the art, and you would like to purchase a limited edition print that goes along with it, you can do so on our website. As a reminder, all of the art sales go to support the podcast and help us continue this mission each week of bringing you empowering stories. All right, back to the show.
I think that it's such a tricky topic because with my experience of some of the friends I've had down here, you don't want to be the person who's overstepping their bounds, but then you also think, what if they need somebody to overstep their bounds? What if they just need someone to ask if they're okay? And I couldn't think of a more perfect situation to tie this into. It's better to be safe than sorry. And if I just believe that it doesn't take much for you to reach out and ask if you're okay. And, just out of just pure curiosity, like, hey, how you doing today? Are you having a good day? Like, is there anything I can do for you? I don't think it takes much. But I also can understand how people may be a little scared to say something and not offend this person, and, truly just check in and make sure they're okay. But like I said, nothing is better than, being more safe than sorry. And that's how I've always seen it, and that's how I'll forever see it, because there's been far too many situations where I would just kick myself and say, gosh, I wish I'd said something, or I wish I'd done something, or I wish I reached out. And that can be prevented as long as you just take the initiative to just check in on your friends, your family, and even if you don't know them, just make sure they're okay.
Yeah, most definitely. That makes me think of, we always talk about being that person for someone who may be struggling, and you see a lot on social media if someone makes, a post that talks about that they're struggling with things, and a lot of people are like, I'm here if you need to talk, I'm here if you need to talk. How important do you think it is, or how would you navigate that if someone is struggling with their, we all have our own personal struggles, but, to really truly be there for that person, if they call you at 12 o'clock at night, like, are you prepared to be that person, on the other end of the phone that needs that, to be that person to talk to? Like, how important do you think it is that when we initiate this, or we put ourselves out there to be that help, that we are 100% where we need to be? Or how would you handle that?
It's kind of tough for me because, being present on social media and, kind of just being open about it and being vulnerable, a lot of people really do appreciate it. And then you'll have those people and say, well, I'm always here for you and all of these things. And while, being someone who has like opened up on social media, I appreciate it, but it's also, I think you have to realize that there are some people that truly do mean it, and there are some people who say it just to kind of give you the peace of mind. But either way, for me personally, I do appreciate it, but I do think it's important to stick to your word. And as cliche as that sounds, it's so extremely true, especially I've made some amazing friends here. And, I always know that I never end a phone call or a conversation without saying, I love you, call me if you need me. And I said, I will literally be there. I have gone to lengths to, just make sure that my friends are okay. And I wish that some of the false promises that maybe some people say on social media would do the same. But I know that these people that I have here with me right now, my family, my friends, they would all do the exact same for me. And so that's why I am open and willing to do that for them. But even if it was a stranger, I know, I guess maybe it's the experiences that I've had or the lessons that I've learned or the things that I know, but I would be willing to answer someone's call at, 12 o'clock at night or whatever. But it's important for people to kind of keep their word on things like that because, like I said, and I cannot stress this enough, it can take one word, one sentence to save somebody or to send them down a dark hole. So I do think it's extremely important, but I also think that's part of the culture of being so enticed in social media and all of these things. You're going to have a whole lot of false promises from a whole lot of fake followers and people that don't truly know you. But again, just building that connection with the people that would have your back and you do the same. And I think that's what's really valuable.
Yeah, most definitely. Almost like really utilizing that part of our phone where you can put in emergency contacts.
Absolutely.
Really, really do that. Like have your, sounds archaic, but like, your phone book of people that you really know that you can lean on when you need to. And I know that, I take it very seriously when I tell somebody, that I am here if you need to talk. And I use that sparingly because I know in my own life, we all have shit going on. Like we all have stuff that we have to do. And I want to make sure that when I let that person know that I am there for you, like I am truly there for you. And even if I can't mentally be at that space when you need me, I will answer that phone call. And if I cannot handle it, I will find somebody that can. And so I think that that's another important thing is that even if you are not in a mental space or have the mental capacity to be that what that person needs, knowing yourself, okay, I know other resources that I can help you with. So
yeah, absolutely. I agree with that 100%.
Great advice. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited. So what are your plans for the glow stick project, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Tell me your plans for that.
So like I said, COVID, all of our best friends really threw a wrench in some of the ideas that I've had. But of course that didn't really stop me. In terms of what I've been able to do so far, I've been able to kind of reach out to small groups within churches. And one of the most exciting things I got to do is talk to a legislator for North Carolina. I think director, gosh, I should get his correct title, but yeah, I need to. But
it's okay.
I got to talk to a director of mental health for the state of North Carolina and have the conversation, just sit down and be like, hey, here's my story. What the heck are we going to do about it? Because having those harsh, asking the hard questions type of conversations really does make a difference. But in terms of what I want to do, I have so much. Being at a university with so many diverse people coming from so many different walks of life in so many different places, I definitely want to get more involved and provide maybe an organization on campus, something along the lines of that, work with established organizations, just kind of reach out there because, I truly think that there's no better place to do that than on a college campus with specifically reaching my demographic. So that would be really cool. I hope to build up my social media here soon. I know we talked about that. But
got so many things going on. I completely understand.
Yes. But that's definitely a goal because, like I said, we live in a generation and in a time where social media is so obsessed with. But I also think with the downfalls, there's a lot of positivity that could come with it. So definitely building up my social media and, just really reaching out. And I am now part of a really amazing church down here, and I've found some amazing people that would definitely be willing to help me kind of reach a different part of the United States.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, eventually I have, of course, really big goals for myself. I'm really dedicated when it comes to especially this topic. So, maybe take it on a national level one day, but, baby steps and just carrying it with me wherever I go, whatever I do in my future, that this is always going to be something that's present in my life. So we'll see where it goes from there. But as of like the 6 months plan, that's kind of what I'm going for.
I love it. I think that's awesome. I know that you are a busy girl. Like you are. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know how these girls do it. Like they are just on it all the time. So, oh my gosh. I want to ask you, you mentioned having resources on campus. How important is it, do you think, to have accessibility to mental health care, mental health help? Because I know that a lot of times like insurance and having the financial ability to pay for that. What are your thoughts on that? Especially in college, you guys are already incurring like so many costs of living and just your education, and like sometimes literally that extra like $100 or whatever it would cost you on, if you need care often.
Yeah.
Like what do you think about that? Like having accessibility in that terms?
I definitely, oh gosh, English. I definitely think it's a crucial part of being on a campus as large as we are. We are so lucky to have so many amazing counselors who offer just walk-in appointments just to sit down about literally anything that you could ever think of. And it's really nice because these are not your parents, these are not your friends, these are not your professors. Heck, they probably don't know really anything about you, but you can sit down and have, a free conversation. And sometimes that's all you need. You need just a little debriefing with someone who doesn't necessarily have any like pre-existing ideas of who you are or what you've been through. So that's an amazing resource that we do have on campus. But I have met a lot of amazing professors who truly want the best for you, and even just going to their office hours and just being like, hey, listen, I'm kind of struggling right now, whether it's like in your class or not. I have some amazing professors who are more than willing to kind of just sit down and talk. Like I said, sometimes that's all you need. So I do think building those relationships with your professors or even with the counselors here, that's extremely important. And I just know I feel extremely blessed to be in a place where they offer something like that. Do I wish there was more conversations, more seminars? Absolutely. I definitely don't think that this is something that we couldn't possibly talk about enough, obviously, because I go off on tangents all the time. But I definitely think there could be more, but I think it is an extremely beneficial service that they offer, and it's better than nothing. Let's just say that. I've had a lot of friends from different universities who say, well, heck, we don't get that. I'm like, I feel
maybe one
extremely
day.
lucky. Maybe a girl can dream. And that's actually something really cool, because we have a few small community colleges around like our big campus. So if that's not something that they necessarily offer, that would also be a really cool goal that, now that I'm talking about it, I could probably look into it and make it like maybe make that offer available for some people, because again, it could help. And a lot of people don't know that just sitting down for about 15 minutes just talking about how good or bad your day was can truly change the trajectory of what your week's gonna look like, what your month's gonna look like. So I don't know.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I mean, we just added another thing onto your list of growing. We'll just add it to the list. Mark. Just add it to the list. I'll take care of it.
Yeah, it's fine. We'll get to it eventually. Hey, I always think that having a long list of goals is always better than having just a few. I mean, take them day by day, step by step, but just have a good interim goal, and maybe we'll get to it one day, maybe we won't, but it's in there, so I'm determined.
I love that. I always joked about too, like how, in school and, just taking it back even to like elementary school and high school, I remember doing health classes and learning the anatomy and how the body works and things like that. Like, and I'm actually reading a really great book right now. I say reading, but it's an audiobook, Permission to Heal. Permission to Feel. And he talks about the importance of recognizing your emotions and your feelings, and how, talking about it can help regulate that. So Do you think it would be something beneficial? Could you see it in the future of having some sort of like health class for the mind in school? Like what do you think that would be helpful?
I definitely think it could be helpful. I think it needs to be done in a tasteful way. I think that one of the most crucial times to discuss a topic as sensitive as this is definitely in middle school and high school.
Yeah.
Not limiting it to that, but I do remember, my freshman year, I had like a health anatomy class, and I still think about it to this day. But they actually provided a lot of really good resources in terms of how your brain works and like the ways you could reach out in mental health. They weren't specifically talking about the hardships of depression, anxiety, suicide prevention, all of these things. But
Yeah.
I still think about that day. I'm like, my gym teacher had an impact on me. So I think that integrating some type of, whether it's a seminar or, it's having people come in and sit down and talk, like, I definitely think that would be beneficial, but like I said, it needs to be done in a tasteful and also in an impactful way. If it were me, I do think that kind of bringing in people who've been through certain things in terms of mental health, suicide prevention, all of these, the umbrella of the topic, I definitely think that could be more impactful. But I've always seen these, like the drunk driving things that they do at high schools where they had this whole, like a funeral and things like that. So not necessarily to that extent, but I do think
that's a little extreme.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never had anything like that, but I can imagine that would be almost traumatic, like seeing something like, I get that they're like really trying hard to like prevent that from happening, but I get what you're saying now, tastefully.
But I definitely think that when you have someone around their age or who went to their high school or were in their shoes not too long ago, could be really impactful and beneficial for them to kind of see it and realize like things like this, people like me can experience all these different things. So I definitely think it could be beneficial in the future. It just needs to be thought out well to actually have an impact on middle school, high school, collegiate kids. So
most definitely, because I think about like there's so much, being an adult and being in the shoes that I am now, and going back to the book that I mentioned a few minutes ago, one of the things that he discusses is the importance of like how we can teach our children that it's okay to have feelings and it's okay to feel these things and process those, and how we as adults, a lot of times, I don't know that it's said as much nowadays, but I have heard it recently that children are meant to be seen, not to be heard. And so in the classrooms, there's so much of that structure of like, you're here to learn, you're not here to play, you're not any of that. And so from very young ages, we are conditioned. I get the purpose behind that. You want to be able to teach the children in class, and there needs to be some order to it. But I think almost like subconsciously, and this is going from, what I'm learning from this book, I'm still in the middle of it. But, structuring us at young ages when we are most, we're most moldable, like that's when we're really starting to figure the world out, and expressing the importance of having our feelings and feeling those and communicating those can help us develop, into adulthood, proper coping skills with feeling our emotions. And a lot of times as adults we're like, oh, what do kids have to worry about? They don't have a bill to pay, they don't have a mortgage, like they don't have a job. But also like really kind of taking a step back and realizing that everyone has their own struggles, and children have stressful things. Like I say all the time, I could not imagine growing up. We didn't have social media I'm a millennial, so we didn't have social media when we were growing up. So like the things that we had to deal with was at school, and then you kind of like got a chance to get away from them until you went back. But now with social media, I know that there's a lot of like online bullying, and then just having, the media in front of you to create, other, self-conscious problems and things like that, self-esteem, self-confidence. So that's why I think that it would be really cool that if we could have some sort of, learning the brain, learning how to process our emotions at a young age would be beneficial to us as adults.
And I think the point you brought up there was really good about almost I hate to use the term invalidating, but almost invalidating the feelings of, you know, young adults or even, you know, children. I think that one of the most detrimental mindsets is when a parent is saying, well, you don't have anything to worry about because, you know, again, like, you're not paying the bills, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. And, you know, I think that can be extremely harmful to someone who may be mentally delicate. And delicate, sorry. I hate to say it like that, but it can be extremely detrimental because I say we collectively because I feel like I've been there. Just because we as young adults or children are not experiencing the same kind of stress or, you know, problems related to the same issues that you are, does not mean that my feelings are not valid because it's different.
Right.
That holds so much value because, like, yeah, I'm struggling with, like, different things, but that doesn't invalidate it almost. I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling, but I feel like you get the idea of what I'm trying to say.
No, I totally get it. Yeah. I mean, because even as, like, you know, I have a 10-year-old, and so, like, it's like almost like we get that generational, like, my mom said that to me, so, like, I say it to my kid, like, what do you have to worry about? But I, like, try to remember myself in my youth stressing about the things that, like, they're real, they're valid, they're what your kids are going through at school and their emotions and the things that they're feeling. I mean, heck, almost I feel like it might even be worse because you're talking about hormonal shifts and then just trying to figure out the world. And so I have to often take a step back and be like, okay, like, my kid is stressed out. Like, how are you feeling? Like, you know, just the other day I could see something was bothering her. And so I had to, like, stop and say, okay, I need to be really present with her. Like, what's going on? Do you want to talk? And she's like, yeah, when can we talk? And I'm like, we can do it right now. Like, let's do it right now. And so, you know, she had the opportunity because it's important as adults. Like, we want to protect our kids and we want to, you know, help them be great adults. But at the same time, like, we really have to just learn how to sometimes be a little bit more gentle and realize that they do have struggles and that just because they're not what we struggle with, they're not as big, air quotes, they're big to them. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Oh my gosh. I have 2 questions that I like to ask all my guests. So if you don't mind, we're going to wrap up the show with those.
Okay.
What would be the best piece of advice that you would give a younger version of yourself if you had a few moments with them?
Oh, that is good. I think this applies to my younger self, but also I have to continue to tell myself this every day. Stop worrying about the things that are out of your control. Especially being, 15, 16, when I first really found out, I would kick myself every single day because I wished that there was something different I could do and unrelated to my mom, even my day-to-day, my school things. I felt like, you are a failure. You're not doing this right just because you weren't there at this time and all of this stuff. And even, like, to this day, I feel like I have to be in control of everything because sometimes I'll just lose it if I'm not. But sometimes I just need to step back and realize that you cannot control every single thing that is going to happen in this world. So just be in the moment and be in the know of the things that you can control in this very second. And, my younger self probably would be like, girl, you have no idea. Like, you have no idea the importance of taking a step back and just, being fully aware and in control of the things that you hold in your hands right in this very moment.
Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh. Yes. So that leads me to my last question. And it's actually my favorite one. We like to talk about stepping into our own power on the show and not thinking of that as a bad thing. How would you think of, or how would you describe the type of power that you try to step into every day?
Ooh. I think this is kind of funny because something I always used to say when I was starting up the Glow Stick Project is turning pain into power. And that has carried with me through every single day. So in terms of, who I'm trying to step into, I want to be someone who is supportive not only of myself but of other people, and taking my everyday struggles and turning that into something I can use to motivate myself and to motivate other people. So I don't know. I just hold a lot of value in being a better version of myself every single day, and knowing and acknowledging the things that I've done before, and recognizing how I can change those, and just be a better, more confident, and more powerful version of myself today than I was yesterday. If that makes any sense.
Yes, it does. It's so beautiful. Oh my gosh, girl, you're so wise beyond your years, and having the opportunity to speak to you has been amazing today. Oh my gosh, I just want to thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your beautiful story. I do want to say to you real quick that I honor your mother, and I am so thankful that you've been able to take your experience and your story with that and hold her with you so that you can help people in the future. I think what you're doing is awesome. And I just know the world is your oyster, and you're going to do some incredible things. You're already doing them. I just can't wait to see what the future holds for you. But thank you so much, Aly.
That means so much to me. I really appreciate it. And I'm so excited I got to be here today. So just thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Oh, thank you. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in today. I want to thank my guests again for sharing their incredible story of transformation with us. I have linked their social medias below in the show notes so that you can give them a follow through their journey. Also, don't forget to check out the art that goes along with each week's episode at IamPower.club. If you personally feel connected to the art and you would like to purchase a limited edition print that goes along with it as your own reminder to step into your power, you can do so at our website. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at IamPowerClub, on TikTok at IamPowerClub, and of course, YouTube at IamPower. And don't forget to like and subscribe so that you don't miss next week's episode of I Am Power. See you then.